Welcome back to the channel. This is Brooks with District 51 RC. I am about to start a new helicopter build, and I was starting to get all my tools together, and I thought I would do a video for those of you that may be looking at doing your first helicopter build. You know, maybe you've been flying binding flies for a little bit. Maybe you've got a Goose Sky S2, maybe a Blade Infusion 120, 180, and you've been flying for a little while and you're ready to tackle your first build. So you may be wondering, what tools do I need? So I thought I'd kind of go over the tools that I use that have worked for me, and hopefully this will help you get started. So to get started, let's look at the tools and odds and ends that you're going to need for the build phase. And then we will look at the items that you're going to need for the setup phase. But to start out with, let's look at probably the most used item in your arsenal, and that's going to be your hex driver set. This is just a standard set that I purchased online. You can purchase these on Amazon, you know, any of the online retailers, and it's going to come in your standard 4 sizes. That's your, 1.5 millimeter, your 2 millimeter, you're going to have a 2.5 millimeter, and then you've got your 3 millimeter. And that is going to be the most used item, while you're building the helicopter. Now, the next couple items that you're going to need are good thread lock. This is the medium strength SAB thread lock, great quality. Depending on the model, you may need the green retaining compound. This is also SAB. I've used both of these on multiple builds, and great quality stuff. You will need a good lube for your head assembly, for the thrust bearings and main shaft. This is Kluber lubrication Microlube, the GL261. This is extremely high quality stuff, and I highly recommend it. Is it's not cheap, but it will last a long time, and it is really, really, really good stuff. Now, the next thing I'd recommend is a bottle of rubbing alcohol and a good set of shop towels. All the hardware that is shipped in these kits from the manufacturer has a coating on it, and you'll need to remove that coating from every bolt in the kit before you apply thread lock. So make sure you've got some rubbing alcohol and some paper towels, and that's always a good thing to have on the workbench. Now, when you get to the point in the build where you start the tail assembly, you're going to need to add the ball links to each end of the tail push rod. And to do that, you're going to need some epoxy. And normally it calls for 2-part epoxy. So you're going to have your resin, and then you're going to have your hardener. This is made by Zap. I've always been a big fan of their products, always good quality. I've used them for years with planes, and now I'm using their products in my helicopters. But this is the 30-minute formula. It'll set up in 30 minutes, and then I normally put that push rod to the side and let it fully cure for 24 hours. And that way I know that it's, it's good to go. So you'll definitely need some 2-part epoxy during the build. And just a few other odds and ends that you may need or may not need, depending on the build. You may need additional hex drivers for the blade grips. Always keep on hand some micro screwdrivers. Sometimes they come in handy. You have some various cutting tools, from your scissors to X-Acto knives, always come in handy. Needle nose pliers, always handy to reach, some of those hard to reach places. Depending on the model, you may have some specialty tools that are required to, put together certain things. If you work on a Tron model, sometimes they have sometimes they require you to use their special tool, but those are just some odds and ends that you may need, and you may already have those on hand. Now, when you get to the part of the build where you're working on the head assembly, you're going to start measuring out the ball lengths and screwing them onto the linkage rods. And to measure that out, you're going to need a set of calipers. Now, they make a standard version, and they also make one like this that's a digital version. Either one will work, but I highly recommend getting a set, because in the end you're going to end up with a more precise setup, and that swash plate is going to be a lot more level, and you're going to be a lot happier in the end. So definitely get you a set of good calipers. Speaking of ball lengths, ball length pliers. Not absolutely necessary on the smaller helicopters. There's ball lengths you can, pop on and off with your fingers. Definitely help with the bigger helicopters. But in the end, maybe something you may want to add to, add to your toolbox if you don't have them, because they are handy to have. Well, now that you've got your helicopter built, now it's time to set it up. And this is probably my favorite part of a helicopter build. But the number one tool probably that you're going to need is going to be your pitch gauge. This is the TL90 digital pitch gauge. This is the one that you're going to find on Amazon and some of the other online shops. Very similar to the old one that Align used to sell. But this is going to, I think this runs about $30, and this is going to do the job. And but you're absolutely going to have a pitch gauge for the setup. Now, if you want to take it up a notch, and this is something I actually just added for my last build. I built a Tron Dynamic 7.0 recently, and this one with the larger blades, it was just, I was having trouble getting an accurate reading, so I upgraded to this, and this is the made by X-Guard, carbon fiber. It's they call it the ultra high precision carbon fiber pitch gauge. And I also have added the this little piece here, and that's called the blade simulator. And you can essentially plug that in to the blade grip, put your phone here, and use your phone as the pitch gauge. And there's an app that goes along with it. So that's an option. Going to cost a little bit more, and probably more than I wanted to spend, but after using it, setting up the Tron, it's worth every penny. But if you're just starting out and just need something basic that's going to work just fine, this is your ticket right here. This is all you need. So definitely have to get a pitch gauge. That's without question. And now to my least favorite part of building a helicopter, and that is soldering. I've done it enough where I feel confident in my soldering skills. It is still not my favorite part, but definitely an essential skill that you need to practice and develop, because when you get that helicopter kit and you get your ESC and you get your batteries, you're going to have to solder something. So this is one that I use. I got this off of Amazon. I definitely recommend not getting the cheapest soldering station. It really helps if you get one of pretty decent quality, but you are definitely going to need a soldering kit. And you'll need the solder to go along with it. So that's definitely something you'll need when you get to that point in the build. A couple other items that I thought I would just throw out there. Some of the servo manufacturers have their own programming box. This one's made by TORQ and can be used with the TORQ servos. During the setup of a helicopter, and when you're leveling out that swash plate, it is critical to get that swash plate as level as possible. And this really is a handy little thing to have if you're running TORQ servos. So I thought I'd just mention that. The other thing I was going to mention is a small battery pack. When you get to the point where you're programming your radio, having a small 7.4 volt battery pack that you can plug into your receiver and do some of the programming, just really helpful to have. So I just thought I'd mention those two items. Well, that about sums up most of the items that I use when I am building an RC helicopter. If you're thinking about building one, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Just take some tools and a little bit of patience. But if you have any questions about any of the items that I mentioned in the video, feel free to post a question below and I'll be glad to answer. Also, if you know of any other items that you think might benefit someone that is just starting out and trying to tackle their first build, throw it down in the comments and maybe it'll help somebody out. But appreciate you guys watching, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you at the flying field.